Yes, we can. And hello and welcome to a very special episode of UKVersus. I am Brett Commit and Freeze Pendragon. I am joined, as always, by Richard Wild Wild Pussycat Plumber. That'll be a relevant joke when his locals interviews comes out. And we are joined by Zoe the Goat McNamara, uh, the head of creative design for UVS. Welcome to the show. How have you been since Vegas? Uh, Richard, how have you been since Sunday? Yeah, I was going to say, Richard, how have you been since Sunday?
Unless my
Oh,
Twitch hasn't caught up.
should be. Yes, it is. Yeah.
There we are. Yeah, sorry. Because I usually have the stream on the background just so
But
I
you
can watch
were
what's going on.
you
There
were
you go.
just muted for that, unfortunately, Zoe. So we'll ask again. How have you been since Vegas?
I have been doing really well. We've been busy on a lot of art and cards and all the good stuff. Definitely inspired from meeting with you all and getting to meet you in person and hear from everyone's point of view.
Awesome.
Richard, how have you been since Sunday?
Yeah. I mean, all good. Just tired. Unfortunately, they're dragging us into the office the next couple of days, so I'm to go actually, put some clothes on before 9 o'clock.
Also, before we get into everything, I do need to know how the design projects are coming along for our idea of Anaconda versus Lelouch v Britannia.
Well, other than some, I will say, content binging in my airport journeys, I've not spent a lot more time on it, but it was a lot of fun to think about in the joys of Vegas airport, where I got stranded for some number of hours.
Yeah, you were saying that sounds really, really rough.
Yeah.
Right. We've got the police in chat. The NOCO's here. No leaks.
So Lenoco will be acting as both hype man and spy, I imagine.
Yes.
So
yeah, I was going to say, probably just to start with, I guess, introduce yourself, because obviously we know you. We had the pleasure of meeting you at the Content Creator Summit, but
I mean,
there's
Zoe
probably
has
people
done.
in chat that don't.
Zoe's done a lot of the webcam weekly stuff. There are links to interviews from there where you can see exactly how amazing Zoe is. But for those of us in the UK, that is very early in the morning.
Yeah, totally fair. I have the huge pleasure to be the creative director over here, which means my team does everything from commissioning art from awesome artists when we're working on customs and exclusives, through graphic design, which will be card frames, card back, packaging, components, booklets, rule books, all the way through making marketing materials for our internal marketing team and our creator community.
Awesome. So, sort of how big is your team? Because obviously, you can't do everything. So, so how many people do you get to work with, and how and sort of the team?
Yeah. So we have a inside studio team that has 7 creatives on it. We also work with a lot of freelance artists, particularly because you want to find that perfect style for whatever property or piece you're working on. So my team is divided into 4 different parts. We have art, which is both commissioning art, but also color. We do a lot of colorizing in-house. Often we'll do backgrounds or extensions to art pieces from style guides. Then we have graphic design, which I think people understand that's in product and on packaging. And then we have 2 wonderful individuals making marketing assets. So photographing cards, making social posts, that kind of stuff. And then we also work with licensors. So there's a lovely lady called Janelle who works with me, and we meet with all of our licensors. We partner with them. We get approval for all of the wonderful product stuff that we want to release. So yeah, those are the 4 groups. But I think it's 8 internal, and then a lot of cool freelancers in the creative field who work with us on specific stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let's start off with how a card gets designed? Because you've got Bill and the design team creating the abilities and effects of cards, and then it falls on you and the team to essentially bring that card to life, find the right art, find the right design to incorporate that card. I know we touched on this in Vegas, but so what's the process like of finding the voice of the card that the design team have made?
It really depends on the specific card and the product, because sometimes it works the way you're describing, where there's a concept, there's a mechanic, there's a specific ability that game design is cooking up, and they then are passing that off for interpretation. Sometimes it works in the other direction. Here's a character that the creative team is really excited about. In fact, can I take a side to this question for a specific card example that I wanted to talk about?
Of course.
This Delight from Girl Power is the opposite of that. We were working with the My Hero team about what they had coming up. And this was probably a year ago. They started to tell us what Star and Stripe would be up to in season 7. And we were working hard on Girl Power and did not at the time plan to feature in the set because it didn't fit initially in how we understood the character. But with a little bit of preview of upcoming content from the licensor, we were able to work it in, and game design was able to do some fun stuff to bring that to life. But this would be a card working in reverse. Licensor clues us into something cool that's going to happen, creative team able to find a great piece of artwork, then coming to game design and saying, how can we get this into the set? Because right as this set comes out, people are going to be a whole lot more hype about this hero than they were when we were designing it, when it felt like just an afterthought throwaway in season 6.
Well, that was one of the great things about Girl Power is it came out just as season 7 was going to premiere, and that led to my theory that Stars and Strike was going to be in the set, and I would love to see how the creative team handled that quirk.
Yeah, well, I wish we'd been able to go a whole lot deeper, but like building a set for us takes at least a year, if not longer. So when we're working on something, we have to be really looking at the long lens of what's going to be going on with that property so that we can put as much of those like juicy fun bits in as possible. I am super proud of this one single card, but I wish it was a full 9-card character kit. That would be way more exciting.
Yeah.
But of course, we've got to save space for any future products down the road. So to finish the answer, it's a collaboration. Sometimes the creative team is working with the new keyword, figuring out how to bring that to life in cards. Sometimes it is, this piece of art deserves to be in this set. Dear darling game designer, how can we collaborate to make sure that is the reality? Most products are a mix of the two. When
Awesome.
we're doing something that has a heavy mechanic lift, a lot of new pieces of game design, they will definitely lead the initial part of that product development much more heavily. With My Hero, we've got a long legacy, and we've definitely used a lot of artwork. So we need to have a very strong approach to how we're tackling the content that's left. So there's a lot more creative team and licensing upfront when we begin collaborating.
Yeah, so going from what you're saying there, imagine like a lot of the deflect cards were handled by Bill and the team and then handed over to you. And then you had Toho going, Stars and Stripes is going to be very prevalent coming up. Can we get into the set? You see the character and go, yes, she's going in the set.
Also, I want to be doing something on the 4th of July with this card, and I haven't figured out what. So if anyone has any good ideas for that, it feels like it'd be a massive miss not to figure something out for her.
I mean, the easy answer is all art promo in the loyalty shop of this.
Personally, I was disappointed that last year we didn't get an alt art Mirko for Year of the Rabbit, which would have been great. But she hadn't come out at the time, so it kind of makes sense that
that would have been amazing. I mean, we should have had Ryuku for this year, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then we got the Snake next year. I'm not quite sure if we have any Snaky boys that we can use.
Well,
The
Barmy,
guy.
does she?
Oh,
She
but
snake?
Barmy has snaky hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got Ghidorah.
We've got
Isn't
Ghidorah
Ghidorah
as
like
well.
Oh,
a
and
green
Ghidorah, yeah.
dragon?
I had a great chat with one of my friends who was saying he's no longer running punches. I went, that's fine because Ghidorah has no arms.
Yeah, that's true. Do wings count for punching? Can you punch with a wing?
I'm more of a slap, really.
Yeah.
Plus, if we're going to shove
Ghidorah,
Ghidorah, we shove the good one.
Wing slap?
There you go. Bill, write it down. We've got a wing slap.
So yeah, I mean that's definitely came away from the conversations we had with you and Bill in Vegas, is that obviously you guys work very closely together and are very much aligned towards like that central vision of what you want to do with a set. But on the sort of flip side of that, what card in Girl Power did you guys fight the most over? If you can say, like, what card did you have the most kind of back and forth as to, you had what you wanted to do with it, what Bill wanted to do with it. Which one was the most contentious?
This one. For not an art reason.
Okay.
For a card title reason. This,
Right.
in my graphic design soul, has too many words in the card title.
I agree.
That's 8% power?
This is 8%. Well, yeah, you're calling it not the card name because the card name's got too many words in it.
One for all, full roundhouse, 8% full cowling. Is that the one?
Yeah, I'm just
one for all, full cowling, 8% falling roundhouse. Yes.
Generally, we just call it 8%.
8% would have been a fantastic card name. But it is describing a specific move, and there were licensor requirements for naming a specific move. So I do understand. I understand the rationale that for the game design and the license, this is a requirement. But my design soul hurt when we had to look at this.
Yeah, I guess that must have certainly been a challenge on how to kind of fit that in and get the art so it still kind of showed up and it's not just a wall of text over Deku's face.
That little chin moment is so sad. Not to point out bad things, it is a really cool piece of exclusive art. I love the energy. We don't see Deku like that a lot. Yeah, that kind of intensity feels like him in later seasons. But yeah, the chin title thing, icky.
Yeah, we've got the regular art up on stream at the minute, and you can't really see it as close in face. But the intensity kind of comes off. One of the big things I want to talk about before we go on to like the stuff you gave me is the unique design set of every set we've had. Like every IP has its own design. So I've got like the Attack on Titan demo in here, and then one from each IP. And then if we look at the MHA to Attack on Yu Hakusho, they're very similar, but the colours are kind of inversed and they get a bit more defined. Critical Role feels more playful and fantasy. Then the Godzillas are they're kind of more thinner, but they appear larger because of that.
And they seem chunkier, right? They seem like more in your face.
The checks and difficulty feel more predominant. And then as I was bringing up with some local just saying, when we were looking at the demo decks, the checks and difficulties on the Attack on Titans look like walls. They're very specifically designed to look like walls, look like bricks. How do you go about kind of coming up with this bespoke design for the world? And a follow-up question to that, with the change in the designs, whose idea was it to change response and enhance to a more solid color and move away from the gradient we had in MHA?
So to back up to the beginning of your question, I would say one of the things that is so special about this game that we want to take care of is that it is not just a standard engine with a wallpapered IP on the top. This is deep and thoughtful interaction with fandom, and I think that's really special. I know a lot of people who work at UVS also think that's really special. So when we're working on the creative for a product, we want to try every different way that we can show that we're trying to connect deeply to that story and bring it to life in the game, not just use it as a way to sell more product by just sticking it on the top, which certainly is a tactic that other games companies pursue to some degree. When we look, I'm not going to mention any names. When we look at any different property, we start by absorbing it and usually trying to find someone on the team. They don't necessarily have to be in game design or in product, but someone on the team who already is a super fan, because they'll always know more than you can ever learn about a property you're coming to fresh. So we find out who's our super fan, who can be our internal consultant on how we can do the coolest thing for it. But on the visual side, we look at all the style guides and assets they give us. We watch or read or learn about it however we can. And then we try and push that flavor into all of the places that won't affect gameplay. And that's a fine line to walk, but that means we're looking at the card title and we're trying to find a typeface that speaks to how we want to bring that fandom alive. We're taking those game icons and we're just adding a little bit of flair. Like maybe they want to look like they're crumbling bricks because we want to tear down the walls. Or maybe for Critical Role, which is so like steeped in that D&D fantasy legacy, they want to feel like jewels because that feels good when you're thinking about your Critical Role fandom. But we also can't take it too far because we want to still be able to have our playtest seamless. We don't want to do anything with the layout on the cards that's going to negatively impact gameplay unless it's because we've learned feedback from the community, like say, maybe the resource symbols are a little too small and that's a problem. So we're going to subtly bump them up so that people can get more legibility without having a disruptive experience when they're playing in a format that allows them to play multiple IPs together. There are bigger jumps between some IP because the property lends itself to it. So like Critical Role lent itself to actually taking a step and putting a new rules text in. We know rules text is something we want to keep working on legibility. We want it to be clearer and bigger. We want to get to the stage where you can look at your opponent's card that they laid on the other side of the table and read the rules. But we also don't want to put too much disruption into the experience to where it doesn't feel like Universus, to where you feel like negative surprise. Solid color versus gradient is a very subtle detail that is actually more about us trying to get predictability. So the gradients were actually manually applied. Every time you saw a gradient on a keyword, someone had gone in and drawn that gradient on. And yeah, so they are a solid color because that can be applied at data merge. So when game design passes to the graphic designer the spreadsheet of rules that they've been working on, we can automatically apply a single color where a gradient would have to have that manual step. And wherever a manual step isn't adding something cool, we want to cut it because it's another opportunity for error. And we are working hard to reduce error rate on cards because of what a negative experience that is.
Of course. And yeah, like obviously, yeah, we've got all these great IPs and they're different look and feels, but fundamentally, they're all UVS cards, right? And that's something that I think you guys have done a really good job of keeping. Of they're all UVS cards, but they all have a different flavor. And I
if
think
there are
that's
specific
awesome.
ones that are easier to play with or that you enjoy the icons or look on, that is something that also we love to hear.
Yeah,
because we are working on 2025 right now and can steer the ship a little bit for what we're doing then.
I mean, from my perspective, I think it's just got better and better and better and better as it's gone on. Like I think if you look at where you got Jetburn was like the first in the new card frame. For me, it goes up and up and up, right? And it just gets better and better. Like obviously the new card frame, the new card backs, all of that stuff was a little shock to the system, I think, for people in terms of the changes. But I think they were, looking back, I think the change has been really good. And then, it just gets better for you, and then Critical Role, and then the Godzilla ones are great, and Girl Power I think is the best big set we've ever had in terms of like look and feel. Like, and I've heard that from everyone. Like, certainly locals. Like, when I went back, and my feedback was, Attack on Titan looks amazing. It's the best thing we've ever done. And they were like, well, actually, no, Girl Power was the best thing we've ever done. Like, they're all huge fans, like, certainly locally, of the look and feel of Girl Power. So, I think it is just one of those things where it just, everyone can see that progression of it's just getting better and better and better.
We're working really hard to do that, so it's so nice to hear.
Seeing as on Girl Power, it's something I brought up with you in Vegas, and it's something I think we should touch on the screen as well. You guys did an amazing job in Girl Power of not making it a waifu tax cash grabby set. It's something we were very worried about. We did a whole stream where we got Pippa and Addy on, and we had a whole chat about how worried we were from the name that it was going to be a waifu set. But that can't have been an easy process, walking the line between empowerment and waifu. Would you mind giving us some insight into some of the struggles that the Girl Power actually gave you and how you overcame them?
Yeah. First, I would definitely give a big shout out to the art director who was working on Girl Power Hitch on my team. Him and I spent a lot of time talking about that fine line, because it was very important to me personally, but also to us as a business, that this continued to add to our reputation and didn't damage it. We had an interesting challenge to solve, which is Girl Power is the 7th booster set for My Hero that we've released. One of the things about Jetburn, like, I love the key art for Jetburn. I think it's awesome. It was an exclusive. But when I look at it, looking back, I think, well, actually, for a My Hero fan who didn't play our game before Jetburn, they look at that set and they think, I need to play the first 5 to understand this, because this is obviously a sequel to something that already exists. And one of the things we wanted to do with Girl Power is kind of open the door again to My Hero fans and say, hey, you could come in and have fun with Girl Power. Even if you didn't play any of the booster sets leading up to it, this is going to be hopefully fun for the people who have been here, but it's open to you to come and explore. And I think Girl Power was a fun theme to do that with, because there's a lot of good content in season 6 that would feel narratively exciting for people who've been following along since set 1, but also kind of an approachable theme if you're a My Hero fan. Like, every My Hero fan likes at least one female hero, and of course we got the boys in there too. Representation is really difficult. I think it's helpful that we have a lot of great female designers and women on the team. But one of the things that we struggled with is wanting to show powerful women without objectifying them any more than they are in the series. We wanted to do justice to their representation as they show up in the anime. And we had lots of powerful characters to do that with. You know how I feel about my girl Kendo. That is the kit that I am, just in love with. In particular, Big Fist Bash. I think this is a powerful female character if ever you've seen one. And I love that we're showing the ultimate moves. We're showing serious faces. This isn't a bunch of bite and grin teeth. And the poses, they're the action of our game. They're those dynamic moments. They're not, pin up. I'm not going to do poses. That would be a mistake. But they're not some of the things that, again, some of those competitors I won't mention would have chosen.
My example to you when we were talking about was the Midnight art, which is from the Hostage arc where you got Evil All Might, which I believe Chris Smith still wants Evil All Might in the game. But it would have been very easy for you to just stick a tied up Midnight on the art and gone, boom, that's money in the bag. But you went for a more empowering close up on the face, still showing off like this suit for the reference, but it was a very. It would have been very easy to take the low road on a character who's already very over sexualized, and you took the high road and went, doesn't matter, she's a powerful character, she's getting empowered.
One of the visual things that helped is, again, the wonderful art director Hitch on this kind of set that we were going to go in for the tight crops. And he had a really good reason for that, which is big faces. Because if you've got facial expressions, that's so much more empowered than zoomed out full body poses. And we still get a lot of movement and active, like, active action happening. But because we're more focused on facial expressions, that keeps us in a more empowered place. Because it's more about how they're feeling and what they're conveying, less about maybe the position that they're in or
Yeah.
It's
how,
more
you
about
know,
them as a character, right? And who they are rather than what they look like.
or what outfit they're wearing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
exactly.
So
It's a great example.
so you were talking about coming into Jetburn and feeling like you had to go back because it had that feel of support for older characters, more had that feeling of this is a season 5 of a show. You had to kind of go back and watch everything to understand what these cards were doing, and Girl Power being a break from that. Is that something we might see moving forward with MHA? That we're going to see less season following and more opened up creatively?
Oh, you're dancing your arm there, boyo. I don't think that's the questions you like to be able to answer, but
Yeah. Rich is right. I can't say anything committed in that regard about what may or may not be coming for My Hero in the future. I would say we are always looking to balance, wanting to give our current and wonderful community what will excite them with what's going to help us grow the game and grow the community. So we got to balance products that are going to be for everyone who's already here with what would be exciting if I had never heard of Universus, never heard of UFS, and just like happened to see someone playing it or see the product in my LGS.
Makes perfect sense. If anyone in chat has got questions, feel free to shoot them out. We'll pass them along.
yeah. So I did have one question, which is a question I think you fired at us at dinner, and I don't think I reciprocated. It was, if you could bring in any IP, you had the checkbook, you could go out and find whether that's like a series, a film, a book, anything. Like nothing's off the table. You've got a limited checkbook to buy an IP into this game, and then you get to do the art for it. What's it?
If I had anything in the world, I would say the Brandon Sanderson would be the author that would be really exciting for me.
Okay.
We've got some stuff in 25 and 26 that is bringing dreams to real life for me, but I can't tell you what those are because I'd get in trouble.
Yeah.
Also Naruto. Naruto would be fantastic in the anime space. Which means I've just confirmed 2 things that are not happening in the next 2 years.
Well, I think everyone knows Naruto's owned by other people, so it's never going to happen. Because there's like always a Naruto game anyway. So,
but she didn't say anything about Boruto though. We could get the Boruto card game. That one hasn't been done yet. We got a question in chat before we quickly move on. What is the general pipeline for starting a product at conception to ready to print?
Depends how big the product is. If we're doing a single promo card, we can do that pretty quickly, and have in as little as, I think, a month or so. But if you're talking about a booster set, we are currently working on, at least in the kickoff stages, things 2 years from now. And our active development time for a booster set is now 18 months. So while we hear feedback from the community and are acting on it, it often may not feel that way because we're acting on it out there. Challenger series are faster for us to develop. So Challenger and Clash are both under a year. We're building those within 12 months, sometimes as quickly as 6 or 7 months. One of the big parts about our world that I don't know how much people understand is the printing and shipping is the lion's share of the schedule. Or not the lion's share. It's a really long time to physically print, collate, pack, ship to distributors, who ship to retailers, who ship to stores. Just that on a booster set is 7 months of our schedule. So yeah, this is a labor of love that takes time.
Yeah.
And we're currently working on what you'll see 18 months, 2 years from now.
I don't know how you do it in terms of like keeping the lips sealed and not telling anyone of like all these exciting things you're doing and like you've got coming down the pipeline of like, I want to tell you all, like not being able to mention anything that we saw at in Vegas has been killing me. Like I want to tell everyone.
I guess one of the
Obviously
easy
I can't.
things that Zoe and the team have is they have each other.
Yeah,
We're quite
I suppose
separated
it's
from
fair.
everyone, so we don't really have anyone to talk to about apart from each other, who already knows it all. So, but Zoe has the team who they can keep talking about.
It's true. We're lucky to talk to each other. It's also funny, like I'm loving revisiting Girl Power since pre-release, but like I hadn't thought about it for quite a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get to kind of revisit, you get the reunion with the product as people experience it, and you get to remember all the fun that went into building it. So yeah, it's kind of special that you get that separation while the physical things get to physical people.
I had my local qualifier yesterday, and there was only one male character being played for everyone that was there. That was Vaxillion. Everyone else, everyone else was playing a female character, which was absolutely amazing.
That's awesome. That makes me really happy.
So you sent us over Kendo, Big Bash, and a couple of others. Where would you like to start in with these cards?
Well, I think I pretty much said the things I loved about the Kendo kit, but yeah, I mean, you just have to look at them to know this. One of the things that I think is really exciting about this set, and I hope that we see, is it's the first My Hero set that has really cohesive art in each alt art and high tier rarity slot. So, like, if you look at, and I did not tell you I was going to hold these up, but I am now. If you look at all the XSRs together, you're going to see like consistent tight crops, consistent intensity. They're all in the middle of something badass. And I think if you look at the older MHA sets we built, we didn't get that same kind of art consistency. So just the art and the way it families together. I could frame the Kendo kit. I could also frame the character alt arts as a kit. I think there's just more thought in the art than there has been. So that's really exciting.
Seeing as you have got one there, I do have a quick question about the Mount Lady SR, alt art SR.
Yes.
Why is it in English at the top?
One of the joys of my role is working with our Japanese license partners. And the official title for Mount Lady, if you're in Japan, is that.
Ah.
So we wanted to put kanji on our XSRs, or at least Japanese versions of the official character name. And this is the official character name for Mount Lady in Japanese.
That's awesome.
So that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Learn something every day.
Yeah, I just wanted to have because I was like, Fuji Lady would be a bit weird because Fuji's mountain in Japanese, but it makes sense if that's how it's actually written out.
Yeah. So one of the fun things we get to do is we get to work with those license holders and we get to learn how they want their property to be represented. And My Hero has a committee who have a lot of deep thought about how they want the product represented, including providing us with their official character titles. Let's talk about this again once more of AOT has been spoiled, because there's some Japanese on some cards I'd love to chat to you about, but I'm not going to say it. Right
well, before we move away from this, we will definitely have you back on after Attack on Titan. You're welcome back anytime, Zoe. Can you give us a little bit of insight in the process of actually working with all these different IP holders and cards? Like you've said to us, cards have to be sent off, they come back, it's a physical process.
Yeah.
Have there been any cards that have been issues that you guys have designed and thought were going to be fine, that IP holders are going back and we want this changed slightly? Or
Oh, yeah.
can you can you go over a little bit like the actual process of a card going from you to the IP holder and then eventually being made into conception?
Yes, although you may get bored when I'm talking about this, so if you do just interrupt, it's a lengthy thing. So we meet a particular IP holder licensor, and we propose a partnership with them. So we put together a big presentation, we propose it, we negotiate, we agree on terms, we're signed. I'm shortcutting that bit, but they've agreed to do a product with us. Then the first thing we have to do is we have to propose to them the product theme, when the product would be released, what sort of product it would be, and what we're going to do. Are we going to do a bunch of exclusive art? Are they comfortable with that? Do they have any big marketing beats that they want us to support by having releases line up or promo cards line up? So we have a little bit of negotiation there on the theme. And this is before we've actually kicked off the product internally to work on. We're meeting with them and we're basically coming to an agreement that feels like it works, both for them and for us. Once we have that theme approval for the licensor, we know it's a booster, we know it's girl power, we know it's my hero. Then we begin. And at that point, game design gets building. The first thing we usually send back to the licensor is we want to feature these characters. And you would be surprised, but they usually have feedback on that. They say, well, we're really looking to build Star and Stripe, or actually, you've not included Deku in this product, and we can't imagine any product for my hero not including Deku. So those are not real examples, just hypotheticals.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, they would come back with those kind of tweaks to our character lineup, and we then lock in on something again that we're both happy with. At that point, game design is in vision design, coming up with mechanics, coming up with new traits, new keywords, figuring out how it's going to work. The second thing the licensor gets, they've approved the character lineup and the theme. They then get the first version of any exclusive art, which will be line art, pencils, sketches on poses. They'll give feedback at that stage. Once we've got their feedback, make the hand bigger, stick her butt out a little bit more, add some more lightning to the background. We'll then move into colors and we'll do a rough color pass first that won't look like art you're used to from us. Looks like, just dropped a color in each area. They'll then come back and say a little bit too blue on this costume. You've not got the metallic feel right here. We then, once we've incorporated that feedback, go to final colors. We send them the final piece of art. Doesn't look like a card, just looks like a piece of art. Once we get art approval, hopefully that's lining up with game design coming to the end of their play testing and development process. So we can get our card rules in editing and then applied to the cards. That is then the first time the licensor sees the card. So they've already seen the piece of art likely 3 or 4 times, but they then see it within a card frame. They often will come back at that point and say, hey, it looks like she's punching the number, or like there's a tangent we need to address. So they might have a little bit more feedback that comes up once they've seen it in a card. They will provide feedback at that stage on card naming. And we usually go a couple of rounds on that, whether it is because they feel like the particular ability needs to be 9 words long, or what it is at that stage. We get that approved. Once we have the card, what we call concept approved, we then build out the files to send to our printer. We send off files to the printer. Currently, we're working with a wonderful printer in Singapore. So we send the files over to our printer in Singapore. They then do what we call pre-pro samples, which don't have rounded corners. I showed some of these to you in Vegas for a different property. They don't have card backs on them. They are just test prints of the face of the card. That, once we've reviewed it internally and checked it, then gets physically mailed to our licensor. Because, as you know, foils don't look right if you take a photo of them. So they have to physically look at the foils to see, like, there's things you can do with foiling that are very disruptive. Like if you foil eyeballs, it can make really weird things happen. So I do understand why they have to look at everything physically. They look at everything physically. They provide feedback again. Take the foil out of the eyeballs, it's making them look like a monster. Or this color isn't printing quite as nicely as it was showing up on screen. Can you boost it a little bit? Once they have signed off on the pre-pro samples, then manufacturing can begin. By which point they've probably looked at some part of that card 9 or 10 times, which is a labor of love to get to full approval, especially when
that's
they're
just one card.
Yeah.
That's just one card. And yeah, in there is probably translation if they're a Japanese licensor. We're writing it up. We have a wonderful teammate who lives in Japan, Yutaka. He is then translating it for that licensor because Google Translate only goes so far.
Yeah, it sounds like
I mean,
in-depth process.
Yeah, it's something I think, people have a sort of vague understanding of. Yeah, it can be a bit of a pain in the bum, but like, obviously when you go through it, like there is a lot to it, and there's a very, very lengthy process, and sometimes you guys in for in the UVS have your hands tied, right? In terms of the IP owners are quite rightfully very protective over their properties, right? If you're putting Deku in his bunny suit, right, it's got to be the right green because it's Deku in his bunny suit. Like,
it's an All Might suit. What do you mean?
Well, you know what I mean. It looks like a bunny.
Yeah, it does. I knew what you meant.
Can you give us examples from past? Let's avoid the future of card design, like card arts or card names that IP holders have kind of insisted get into the set, and you guys have gone, yeah, we'll try and make it work.
Card names. The only licensor who is really good about suggesting ideas for card names is Critical Role. They are just a treat to work with. They are so wonderful. And I think a lot of why they're so wonderful is they understand our business more deeply than I think some of the more conventional licensors, because they're more directly connected to it still, where for big anime properties, we're often working with a license manager who's very removed from the content itself, where with Critical Role, it's a smaller team and they have a wonderful lore keeper internally, Danny, who will suggest card titles and card names as she's reviewing a product. I loved that as an element because she's so knowledgeable and understands the story literally better than anyone in the world. So in that situation, I think both game design and creative felt like it was such an honor that they were proposing ideas and concepts. With most of our licensors, it's less a card title they want and more where they're not comfortable with certain card titles. And sometimes we have a struggle with particular keywords where we have a keyword attached to a character that may make sense mechanically, but isn't the exact language a licensor would use. So sometimes that's a little bit of a challenge, that we want to use the keyword as it stands, and within that property, maybe they use a different word. But usually communication gets you through it.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And then imagine, like, when you're designing card and art for a signature move, they want that word, like, hence the full cowling 8% roundhouse thing. It's
exactly.
Again, they're very protective of it. If you're going to make a card this thing, make it the thing. So
exactly. Don't put a nickname on it. It has to be official because this is official licensed merchandise.
So
exactly.
We may not be seeing a Deku or Kachan card anytime soon. It'll always be Izuku or Katsuki Bakugo.
They are comfortable with official nicknames in certain capacities. But again, let's talk about the past.
Yeah, we'll keep talking about the past. Speaking of the past, doom scrolling through TikTok, I have come across a few Critical Role content creators opening product And they absolutely
Yeah.
love the design of this game. They love the design of the cards, and you got and they always every single one has been consistently going. These cards look amazing. I can't wait to give them a try. So I don't know if that feedback ever gets back to you, but the consensus from like Critical Role fans is this is absolutely amazing.
I may or may not be a bit of a critter in my personal life.
Mhm.
So I think I saw more of the Critical Role social reaction
Oh,
than I do about most IPs, but I still don't think I saw much because most of my life is, yeah, on the future art stuff rather
Yeah.
than what's happening
You're
today.
living 2 years in the future.
I mainly know
Yeah.
Matt Mercer from his anime stuff, but one of my partner's close friends is a big Critical Roller. When all the stuff came up, essentially all my spare stuff, and I bought a second fresh cut grass and playmat and gave it to them. They absolutely loved it. But
Yeah.
let's move on to something you were very eager to talk about, which is the detail and work that went into the Godzilla alt art and the Girl Power Chromes.
Okay. This is just straight print production nerdery. But one of the things that when I first joined the game and the team felt really sad was lack of texture in our cards, that our cards were flat and that the vast majority of our competitors were doing cooler things with texture and with varnish. Um, so we have been working hard to R&D different varnishes and textures. Critical Role character alt arts had a specific varnish called Chemical Reaction in the background. We didn't apply any texture to that. We just had the varnish in there, and it was cool. And it definitely changed the depth of the cards. But for the few lucky who've got their hands on Girl Power Chromes, and I pulled on my favorite to show you, in fact, I also got my magnifying glass. You will see the chrome is implied in two ways. On the top there's the full flood chrome, but here is this amazing texture. And these textures are called reticulating textures. And the science of it is like you're applying a very fine geometric texture, but because that changes the way the light hits each stripe of the texture, you're basically pushing depth so that a different part of the interior of that catches the light depending on angle. And it is so wild. So in the Girl Power Chromes, we have reticulating texture in chrome, in contrast to flood chrome. But the Godzilla alt arts, we did the reticulating texture in a varnish in the character alt arts. And this is going to be impossible for me. There we go. The texture within that background, it's like as fine as a fingerprint, but it means that the card literally feels dimensional. Like the clouds separate from the fire, separates from Godzilla. And I love it.
They're awesome. All the Godzilla ones, and in the end, the Girl Power ones. Like again, it's just that progression of everything's just getting better and better at every spot, right? Like the chromes are better, like the card frames are getting better. Like everything is sort of. It very much feels like this iterative process where it's just getting better and better and better. And spoilers, it's getting better with Attack on Titan.
Is it? Who knows? We'll find out hopefully this week when with Bell's article.
We're allowed to say that. We're allowed to say our opinions. We can't say specifics.
I can tell you that iterative is how we're thinking about print R&D. Once we feel good that we can produce something high quality with a new finish or texture, and it makes sense for the product, we're applying it. And there are a couple of things in AOT that are we'll have to talk about in the future.
Yes.
You may not be able to answer this as it's a future question, but it's not pertaining to anything IP-wise. Will we be seeing this kind of textured design and like layered effects coming to regular cards, or will this just be an alt art chrome kind of exclusive?
I will tell you that every new thing you add to a card adds time. And we want to be putting the most effort and the most time in the most important cards. So we want to have our love at the top of the rarity pyramid, because those are usually mechanically also the most exciting. they are the most collectible. It makes sense for us to put more effort there. Like the Godzilla, to make a single Godzilla character alt art is 8 separate layers, which means to make this card, we had to make 8 separate PDFs that went to the printer, where a paper common is just 4. It's just the CMYK layers. I would anticipate that over time we're able to do more with more of the top of the pyramid, but I can't imagine it would ever make sense for us to do like a foiled, varnished up, uncommon, even if it was going to be a staple.
That's fair.
Is that a vague enough answer?
That's not for us to decide. That's for the cops in chat to decide.
Yeah. I guess this is one of those things where you're always looking for opportunities to do cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that fresh cut grass, which you brought up, was a really fun opportunity to do something cool with print production. The fact that we had April Fool's Day so close to product release meant it was too tempting not to do. But yeah, centered cards are, you're adding one more layer in. It's a different type of layer, but it is still an extra thing that you're communicating with the printer and the licensor and selecting and doing with some intention.
It was a very overpowering smell the first time we got it. We all know what the answer is going to be in here, but I said I'd ask. We've got a question in chat asking if the Critical Role Manata Scallon will ever see the light of day.
I'm not even going to say a word because I'm going to get it wrong.
No
comment. That's what I was trying to say. No comment.
I was expecting Scallon's hand to be in the set somewhere. But
I really
you state that we got Connor in chat saying that the Momo Chrome is probably the best chromies that he's seen when he pulled it. I agree. I lost it when I looked at Ghidorah. I don't think I gave Ghidorah the love it actually, because we're looking at, like you're saying, every aspect of that card's foiling is completely different, from like the lines on the sky to the clouds to the Ghidorah themselves. I put it under a microscope a couple of days ago, and I'm going to record it under a microscope because it's beautiful even under a microscope.
Yeah. In printing, they call them loops, but we literally review proofs with a magnifying glass to see the ink traps and the details at that scale. Connor, I agree with you. This is the best chrome to date, but there's even cooler ones coming.
Ooh, yeah, Connor opened us up on stream, and it was really cool to see. Any more questions from you, Richard?
No, I think I've about covered everything I had in my head to ask. Did you guys have any more questions you wanted us to throw at Zoe for you?
There's nothing in the chat just there, but while they're coming on, one controversial design choice that has been going on for the last couple of years has been chibis. How did they come about, and will the haters be suffering them much longer?
How did chibis come about? Well, chibis are popular with many of the properties we engage in, which means they have chibis in their style guide. I can tell you we've never done a customer exclusive chibi. But sometimes we are in the situation of choosing to put them on cards. And 2025, there is one chibi card I'm aware of. Ooh. A single one.
A single one. Is it
in fact, I probably shouldn't have said that either. But yes, there is one chibi in 25.
I know we were talking at the meal about Overlord would be very cool in the set, and they've already got their own chibi versions from Isekai Quartet. So an Ainzal Ghoul chibi would be very cool.
But the right AP chibis are awesome. SD is awesome.
Chibis are awesome. I mean, the Fate series has their chibi versions. The Z cards all have the chibi versions. I personally love my chibi cards. I got them framed up, but I know some people aren't the biggest fans of them, and especially as a regional pricing, they're not the biggest fans. Especially when you look at the 2021-2022 super amazing designs of like Dark Shadow Ruin and Frigid Heatwave, which were absolutely insane. Some people do see it as a bit of a downgrade. I personally like chibis. I'm not afraid to say that.
So yeah, we do have a question in chat. So from Connor, has there been a moment in the design process that you really wanted something to happen, but the licensor has just said no?
Every day of my life. If we weren't hearing no from licensors, it would mean that we weren't trying hard enough.
Yeah.
So I love hearing no because it means we got to the line, and we want to try and do as much as we can with the fandoms that we're working with, which means we want to figure out where their no is. But yes, we hear no's all the time.
I mean, that does make sense. You want to push the line. You want to find what you can do. You can. And one of the things that I loved about the announcement of Star Trek Lower Decks was it shows that it's based on a fighting game, but you're not afraid to crack the puzzle of how do we incorporate this. And from a design and creative process, you want to go, how far can we push our limits? Because that's how we'll grow.
We worked on Lower Decks at the same time as we were working on an IP I won't name that is much more traditional to UFS. And I think the difference between any property that has strong roots in fighting game working with our engine that has strong roots in fighting game, you end up with very direct interpretations. Like a high attack is going to be a punch. But there are ways characters attack. Like if you were a poet, you would attack by writing a verse. That is not a real example from the game, but there are ways that characters can attack that are much more metaphorical. And honestly, creatively, it's a lot of fun to explore that territory. I know game design has a lot of fun with that too. But obviously, there's also something cool about just directly celebrating the roots of the game with properties that are more combat based. So yeah, a bit of both, I think, makes for a stronger overall experience of Worlds Collide.
A lot of people are very excited for Tekken. Question from chat is, why haven't we seen Gang Orca yet?
No comment. I have 1 minute until I am supposed to be on like a work meeting doing real stuff rather than having fun with both of you.
We'll wrap up here then. We'll wrap up here then. Lovely having you here, Zoe. You're welcome back anytime. So anytime you want to have a chat, talk about it, more than welcome. We'll fit you in.
Awesome. I look forward to hearing about what you unwrap in the mail soon. And it was such a treat to chat to you both.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very, very much for joining. It was very much appreciated. Hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Deal.
Yep. Well,
bye.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Right. Should we wrap up ourselves, Richard?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that was awesome. Obviously, as the screen said, Zoe is the GOAT. I think her and not just her entire team do an awesome job on that creative and design part of it. Like I say, I think things are just getting better and better and looking better and better. And they're things even just on a sort of micro level, like things like the card symbols getting bigger, and then the moving of the names as well. Like I think everything's getting better and better, so it's awesome. And so thanks very much everyone in chat for joining us. This was a really awesome opportunity to have Zoe on the show.
Oh, definitely. We're hopefully going to get more UVS employees on, more chats like this. It would be great to talk to Mike and Bill and Josh, and hopefully even get Lenoco on, although he's leaving for a meeting. Possibly get Levi on to talk about his role in company. We just want to have nice, friendly chats and show that, as Kevin put in his article, UVS equals human beings.
Yeah, exactly. They're all humans. They're all lovely humans.
Yeah,
I think it's just the more we can do to help show that, and spread the love, like all the better.
Exactly. So we're gonna call it there, guys. We're gonna head off. Are we coming back Sunday then?
Should do. Yes, I believe so. I might have an LQ. I might not. I don't know. We're thinking about moving it so we will turn up. But yeah, obviously, everyone in chat, in Twitch, thank you very, very much for joining us. Much appreciated. large numbers in here. That was great to see. Thanks everyone for joining. Everyone on YouTube who's watching this, as always, thank you very much for watching the video. Like, subscribe, comment, join our Discord, come and chat and hang out with us. And yeah, we'll see you all the next one.
Yeah,
Peace
we'll
and
see you
love.
in the next one. A big shout out to everyone that's been engaging on YouTube recently. I'm putting a lot of more effort into this after the summit. So everything you guys are doing to support us is amazing. We're gonna head off now, and we'll hopefully see you Sunday.